Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the BG Cast Wednesday show. So, today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to do my typical world stage coverage and things like that. You guys are getting enough of that from everybody else here on Rumble and YouTube about Tim Pool's catastrophe with Eliza Blue, amongst other things that we have going on. The woke tribune, trolling Hogwarts and things like that. We're not going to focus on that today. We're going to focus on something a little bit different. And this is actually going to be part of my consciousness documentary that I am working on. But today we're going to run by a theory, and we're going to talk about this theory, and we're going to kind of dissect it and get into it a little deep. It is a theory of mine, as well as a few other people. My co-anchor, Joe Price-Stupa, for the BG Tap Saturday show, holds this theory in high regard. Jake from Jake Knows Nothing, he heard this theory, and he's kind of on that vibe too, as well as a few other people that I've spread it with. Mind you, this theory is going to be even a little bit more avant garde, even when it comes to people on our side of the field. I think it's worth hearing, and before you jump to conclusions and make assumptions, all I can ask you is to hear what I have to say, hear the evidence that I have to support it, and to come up with your own conclusion. So, without further ado, here we go. The theory. So the theory is what if right now we're having a perfectly staged awakening? And not only on top of a perfectly staged awakening, there truly are no heroes, enemies. There's no villains or do-gooders. There's nothing but teachers and actors. So this is going to sound kind of bizarre because I know some of you are going, well, Steve, child trafficking, Satan worship. What do you mean this stuff is... There's no real evil. I'm going to get to that. You just wait. Okay? So you guys have heard me talk before about how 2012 was the beginning of this simulated reality, the simulated test drive we have going on that kind of has to do with our evolution of a species here on this planet. And I encourage you to go look at life, go look at news articles, and go look at things like that before 2012, and then look at everything after 2012. After 2012, you start to see what I would call the silliness and the lapse of logic and reason start to embed itself into our society. Things became rather extreme. Everything became polarized and politicized, even more so than it was in the early 21st century. On top of that as well, you had the rise of the woke movement, you had the rise of BLM, you had the rise of Antifa, you had the rise of all of these different organizations that have, at least in my opinion, contributed to the further lapse of reason and logic in our society. So the reason why I entertain this theory, and I hold this to be true, is for this reason in general. And actually, you can take a little bit of basic human psychology. That's all you need. You guys don't have to go to college to learn this. You don't have to. Basic human psychology is available for you to learn anywhere. And in fact, I'm going to put a link down in this description so you can see for yourself what I'm talking about. So when you take basic human psychology, all right, and you do this. So when you make something seem overtly taboo or a gigantic no-no without any logical explanation or reason behind it, what does that do to the average person? It makes them raise their eyebrows. They're like, why is he so caught up in not wanting us to see this, not wanting us to experience this, vice versa? You can even take that with children. I know some of you guys are parents out there. I'm not. I was a child once, though, and I know every time my parents tried to make something seem overtly taboo and a big no-no to me, and they never explained why, and the answer was, because I said so, it just made me more curious. It made me want to look into it more and made me want to experience it more. So, with that quote being said, look at how the global establishments and the global governments treat God, spirituality, religion, philosophy, and consciousness. Look at how they treat it. They can't stand it. They want it completely removed from our way of life. They want the institution of science to be our God, and they want the totalitarian, authoritarian regime of the New World Order to be our other God. That's what they want. They do not want us believing in God. They do not want us in spiritual practices. They do not want us to explore that part of our nature. And when they tell us why, they make up all these stupid reasons. Oh, it's pseudoscience. Oh, it can't be proved. Oh, it can't be this, and this. Nothing with any logic or any reason behind it, because at least in my opinion, when you take spirituality, that fills in the gaps of what science is missing. And in fact, I would highly recommend you check out the Spirit Science series. I checked it back out 10 years ago when Patchman first came out. And I still agree with this theory 100% today that spirituality and esotericism fills in the gaps that science cannot explain and cannot figure out. So with that being said, you have the overtly taboo big no-no of God, religion, spirituality, and philosophy in our society. It's an overtly no-no. We do not accept it. We do not, we do not condone it. All right? Makes you kind of think why, right? On top of that, also, what you have is the unreasonable classification of mind-altering compounds such as psychedelics, such as psilocybin, cannabis, LSD, and DMT that were placed in Schedule 1, which means that they have no medical benefits, they have a high potential for abuse, and they're highly deadly. Now, those out there who have experience with these compounds or who have gone through ritualistic healing with these compounds know that that is not the case with any of these, especially cannabis. I mean, don't get me wrong, you take a little bit too many mushrooms, a little bit too much LSD, or you take too big of a hit of DMT, you might think you're losing your mind, but you're not going to die. Okay, and same thing with cannabis. Like, you might smoke a little too much, you might get one toke over the line, but you're not going to die. All right, so that was also a big thing for me that I came to realize, was that you have the unreasonable classification of plant medicines that expand your consciousness into new perspectives. They make those seem overtly taboo. The propaganda against them is severe. The propaganda lacks, again, all logic and reason behind it. So it is basically, oh, we don't want you to take this because it's going to make you hallucinate, see things, and possibly hurt yourself. No, every time I've embarked on one of those journeys, I've done nothing but come out the other side a better person, wanting to change my life for the better, wanting to learn more, observe more information, have more rediscovery in my life. Okay? And now I've been talking about it the first, couple times. So now we have what I would call the total lapse of logic and reason in our society in general. I mean, there's a couple of really, really good examples, even just of recent. I mean, you look at the Tyree Nichols situation. That side, the left, I don't call them liberals. They're not true liberals. Because true liberals are for liberal freedoms. They're leftists. The leftist is still trying to pin racism on the Tyree Nichols incident, even though all 6 of the cops, there was 5 or 6 of them from what I remember seeing, were African American. Definitely had to do with racism, right? So, and then you have the combating racism with racism, and then you have the combating fascism with fascism, and then you have all of these oxymoronic things that are going on in our world today that make absolutely no sense. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you've heard me say the expression before, you guys, you can't make this shit up, because you really can't. It's quite literally permeating a lot of our society. But don't get me wrong. All right, not everybody experiences that on a day-to-day basis. Everybody's subjective stage is different. You basically pull in what you draw to you. So if you're putting out that kind of energy, that's why you're dealing with these kind of things. You want to wipe that energetic slate clean. So without further ado, I'm going to take you through the explanation to this theory. So I actually have a drawing here I did. It's very crude. Do not make fun of my chicken scratch, all right? I used to be quite the good artist when I was younger. I swapped that out for playing guitar as I got older, and it kind of fell away from me. But, so here we have duality. Now, if you look at duality here, right, this is a byproduct of only the third density / dimensional realm. Okay, we try to compartmentalize things and we try to put everything in boxes. Okay, so you have what I would call the black and white complex. Now, Christians, I'm not bashing on you. When I say this, you guys live in this black and white complex. This is what I mean. You got to use discernment, even with your own beliefs and your own philosophies. So I'm not bashing on you when I say this, but really pay attention to what's going on here. So in the black and white complex, right, you have the white, right? And we have the good, the light, and the love. Okay? So this is the balance most of us want to sway in, right? We want to be mostly service to others and service to God, service to the universal consciousness, things like that, and our higher selves. That's the balance we want to sway in. Okay? I'll get to the further point on that. And so now we have what is the black, right? So I'm going to hold the black up here for you. All right, so black, we have evil, darkness, and fear. So this is the side of the balance that we don't want to sway in. We want to sway mostly. And what I mean mostly, there's some people who say 51% service to others and 49% service to self. We'll get to that too as we go on. So the one thing I want to talk about this model right here is very limiting on your consciousness, right? It's insanely limiting to view things as one-sided as this, okay? Because in all reality, what we have, next drawing, don't make fun of me, is the truth, the gray. All right, you see how we have gray, which is the combination of black and white, okay? Everything in essence. Now, you can look at many different philosophies who talk about this. I mean, I'm not even going to talk. I mean, you can look at Buddhism, you can look at Taoism, you can look at Hermeticism, you can look at alchemy, you can look at esotericism, you can even look at some stuff in Freemasonry. You can even the amount of philosophies and spiritualities that contain this type of philosophy far outweighs the Judeo-Christian religions. It most certainly does. Okay, and that is what I mean. We have to use discernment even with our own beliefs, guys. So in the gray, we have a few things. We have balance. Bad things can emerge from good situations. Good things can emerge from bad situations. One cannot exist without the other, in angels and demons. So, in the beginning, there was darkness. And then God said, let there be light. So if we really want to get technical, and we really want to break this down to this kind of degree, okay, darkness was here first, not light. So, and from the darkness came the light. Okay, so this is a key point in example, and this is even in Genesis, you guys, for my fellow Christian listeners out there. This is even in Genesis, okay? You can't have one without the other. You just can't. You can't have light without darkness, and you can't have darkness without light. It's not how it works, okay? The God, or who I refer to as universe/God, okay, holds aspects of both energies. Okay, it is God and Satan are the two same people, and I know that's probably already. I already have some of you up in arms just by saying that. Okay, it is the case. Okay, so we'll kind of even touch on how bad things can emerge from good situations. I'm sure quite a few of you in your life, you have had a very good thing happen to you, or somebody you know, okay, and something bad came out of it, okay? Whether it's, let's say, like you, I don't know, here's an example, like you won the lottery, but because of the IRS and the tax man, he stripped out like 30% of your winnings. That's a bad thing, that's a bad thing happening from a good situation. And then also, too, we also have, good things come from bad situations. Like, and we talk about silver linings in life, right? You know what I mean? So we talk about silver linings. Sometimes there's a good thing that happens out of bad. Okay, with that being said, also you have something called balance. We talked about balance here. Okay? So balance is the balance between the dark and the light. Now, what I mean by the dark and the light is the energies that are within us, our consciousness, this universe, the universal consciousness. Okay, so we have this balance, all right? And here's the thing. Don't you dare lie to me, any of you. You have a little bit of darkness in you. I do. I sway mostly in the direction of the light, but I would be lying, bull-faced lying to you guys if I told you that I did not have a little bit of darkness in me. And that is the importance of doing your shadow work and doing your internal work on your spiritual journey. Okay, and that's something you have to address. You have to, because if you do not address the darkness, it can fester and overtake your being. As a ex-New Age person, I can tell you that is the truth. You cannot ignore this darkness within you. You cannot act like it doesn't exist, because it does. You've had thoughts about punching someone in the face. You've had thoughts about slapping somebody because they won't shut up. You've had negative thoughts. You have darkness within you. It is what it is. Okay? It's whether you cater to and act on that darkness is what actually separates the balance of swaying in the dark and swaying in the light. So even on top of this, I got, here angels and demons, right? So what we have going on is we have a lot of reports within the Bible, and as well as other philosophies, of angels doing not so great things. And we have reports of demons doing somewhat good things. Now, I'm not saying that out of these, the angels did the bad things and good things didn't come out of that. And I'm not saying the demons didn't do good things that bad things came out of. That's part of breaking free from the duality of this realm. Duality is strictly catered to this third dimensional world, this realm that we live in. This is the only place duality exists. Outside of it, there is none. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to break down some examples of what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to kind of wrap it up into the theory of everything that's going on and what I truly think is going on. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me go smooth my camera over here like I normally do. All right, so we got... Does God sometimes use evil to accomplish his plans? Well, it's very likely, because God and the devil are two of the same people. So, before I even get into this article, and before some of you throw off your hats and get your jammies in a bunch and all of that stuff, let's talk about Satan real quick. Satan is the tester of humanity. Okay, that is his purpose. If you really want to use the Christian mindset and the Christian narrative on this, God is aware of what Satan is doing and he's allowing it. Okay, so this is in the Bible, you guys. Like I can't stress this enough. So although Satan sways towards the balance of the dark, he's needed. Yes, he is. Okay, he is a very important part of the planet's stake right now. Because, here's a few examples. How could you truly know and appreciate the good if you never experienced evil? How could you truly know and appreciate peace if you never experienced conflict? How could you truly know and appreciate what you truly want out of life if you are not shown what you don't want? Okay? Humanity would not grow and evolve if we were not tested. You see what I'm saying? Look at all the times throughout the past. Humanity's been tested and we've overcome. We've grown. We've evolved, whether it be through physical means, through consciousness means, any kind of means. Anytime we've been tested in the history of humanity, we've evolved. I mean, shoot, dude, humanity was tested at the end of the last Younger Dryas with the catastrophe that occurred. But we survived. We overcame, all right? And we came back, okay? So this is one thing I really want you guys, especially a lot of you who believe in Judeo-Christian religion, and that is your philosophy, you need to think about the importance of Satan, okay? Because if we were never tested, we would never grow. How would we find God if we were never tested? How would we be able to find Christ if we were never tested? Okay, like this is something that kind of just makes me want to pull my hair out a little bit when I deal with people who practice Judeo-Christian religion, is because they think that if there was absolutely no tests or absolutely no evil, everything's just going to be fine and great. But like, no, how are you even going to be able to appreciate everything being fine and great if you don't experience it not being fine and great? You see what I'm saying? So this is not new knowledge I'm talking to you all about. This is what I would call not new age, but old age traditions. Old age as being before the Judeo-Christian religions. Old age as being around many millennia and thousands of years before the Judeo-Christian religions. So, with that being said, let's get to the article. So, does God sometimes use evil to accomplish his plans? Habakkuk 1:5-11 is a prophecy in which God relates his intention to raise up Babylon, a ruthless and dreaded nation, to achieve his purpose. This raises the question, does God sometimes use evil to accomplish his plans? Sounds like it, does it? There is an important distinction to be made between God controlling evil and God creating evil. God is not the author of sin, but he can use sinful men to obtain an objective. Now listen, guys, that's what I just told you. Sometimes good things can come out of bad situations. So, all things includes both good and bad things. God can use struggles, heartbreaks, and tragedies in ways to bring about his glory and our good. What did I just say? What did I just say before we read this? So, Romans chapter 8, verse 28 says, "For those who love God, all things work together for good." Okay, for those who are called according to his purpose. Such events, even though we don't understand the reason for them, are part of his perfect divine plan. So, I can't tell you how many atheists I've talked to throughout the years who go, well, if God exists, why would he let this happen? If God exists, why would he take my baby brother from me? Or this, and this, and this. If God exists, why does all... Because, like I just said, why are there wars? Why are there killings if God exists? I said, well, how can you learn to appreciate the good truly and fully unless you experience something bad? This is basic human psychology. This is how we tick in our minds, guys. Okay, and I can't stress that enough. So let's go ahead and keep looking at this article. So, at the same time, the Bible is clear that God does not sin and he performs no evil. God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. The rock, his work is perfect, and for all his ways is justice. So, I'm going to give you the figurative interpretation of that, because at least in my opinion, the Bible is a figurative, spiritual speak, parable book. There's only one book that I believe was an actual historical account that was a literal interpretation of something, and that is the book of Enoch. And that is a whole other podcast for another time. So, at the same time, God does not sin, he performs no evil. So basically what they're saying here is that because good and evil are two sides of the same coin, okay, that really universal source / God itself cannot be tempted with evil, cannot do evil, even if it does bad things to manifest an objective or a good circumstance, because all of it is part of the most important balance of the universal type and the universal consciousness. Okay? The problem in Habakkuk is that God was using the Babylonians, an evil people, to accomplish his will. Again, using bad situations to manifest good things. Okay? Our wise and perfect God can and sometimes does use the sin already existing in our world to fulfill his purpose. Dude, this is like hitting the nail on the head. Okay? God's revelation... Okay, wait, I skipped there. The perfect example of this is Jesus' crucifixion. The murder of Christ was an evil act. But through it, God redeemed his elect and disarmed the demonic powers and authorities. My freaking God, dude. You can't hit the nail on the head any harder than that. And this is one of the biggest messages I like to deliver on this when it comes to being on a spiritual path, is that there are no enemies. There are no heroes. There's nothing but actors and teachers. And we're going to get into that here in just a minute. Okay? So I also want to bring up iterations of demons doing good things. Okay? Or angels doing bad things. Better that. So angels in the Bible, guys, actually do a lot of bad things. Okay? For instance, well, we could see the destroyer angels, the ones who destroy, as doing something bad, although creation can't exist without destruction. Again, that in and of itself is part of the balance. Sometimes you have to destroy to create. Some of us might see that as a bad thing, that we're destroying this city or this civilization, but sometimes for what's coming next, that's going to be necessary. And this is just kind of where we look at this now. So the word angel means messenger. So not surprisingly, many times in the Bible, God chooses angels to take his message to people. Probably the most famous time that angels were God's messenger is when they were used to announce the coming of Jesus into this world. Okay? The job of telling Mary that she would have a special baby. We're not told the names of the angels that told the shepherds about the birth of Jesus. Okay, but then again, too, I think a really good instance of angels doing bad things would be the Tower of Babel. The whole Tower of Babel incident, okay? Because this is what I'm just going to say. If I was the universal creator, and I was the universal consciousness, and I saw all of my little human creations down there unifying together and building this giant tower towards the heavens, I would look down and go, man, I did such a damn good job. Look at them go. Oh my God, they're growing so fast. I am really proud of myself. Look at what I've done here. I mean, why does the universal God, the creator, have to fear people into worshiping him? That's one thing I don't understand. I think the real one and true God does not have to fear people into worshiping him. And that's why I believe that the God of the Old Testament is not the real God. That's another podcast for another time. Although we might touch on it a little bit here on the end. So the whole Tower of Babel incident, the quote-unquote God of the Old Testament, looked down and saw humans unifying together. They had one language, they were one civilization, and they were building a tower to the heavens, okay? And it was not to rival God. I think there was other reasons they were doing this, but that's up to speculation and, of course, interpretation. But this God goes, man, what the hell do they think they're doing? They're down there freaking acting like they can do something like this. Nah, all you guys, go down there, take them, separate them, give them different languages so they can't understand each other. What good did that do for humanity? You see what I'm saying? But then again, what that did, this is what I talk about, the balance, is that set us up for the awakening. It set us up for everything. So again, we have a bad situation that has a good silver lining to it. Okay? Another prime example. We got the Tower of Babel. I think that in and of itself is a big one. So on top of that too, I have some videos here that I looked up that I thought would be appropriate for this. And then after we get through these videos, I'm going to go ahead and state my theory.
Today I'm going to make a video that's a little different than the ones that I've made so far. So generally at the beginning of a video, I would give you the title or the topic of what I'm going to discuss throughout the video. But today, I think that I'm just going to let myself flow, because I feel like I've talked about so many individual topics that I kind of want to begin to hone them down, bring them together, see how they all function with each other. There's so many belief systems around the entire world of the way the darkness functions, the way the light functions, the way that judgment, interference, fear, ego, the way that all of these different forms of awareness, all of these different consciousness, the way that they are different from each other, or the way that they work together.
We need to get her on the podcast. She's got some good stuff.
When we're speaking about the darkness, the first thing that comes to people's heads is either the color of black or everything we judge to be ego, or anything we judge to be evil.
She's using ego and evil.
This is generally the first thing that would pop into a person's head when we say darkness. But have we ever really approached this kind of awareness from a neutral position? If we really for one moment get out of our judgment, get out of the belief system of what we believe to be true. I made a video about truth before and how it's a very neutral consciousness. It's simply a state of being. There is no one truth. So if we get out of the belief system we have about what existence, reality...
I like what she just said. She said there's no one truth. And man, is that the freaking case. And getting out of this dualistic box is what we need to do.
In consciousness, what all of these different concepts are, and we approach what darkness is from a perspective that is neutral, open, willing, and centered within your own self. And when we can approach it from that perspective, we can see that it's part of the balance that there is between existence. The way that it was presented to me in a class that I was preparing a few weeks back, it was shown to me like there are these two frequencies, the light and the dark, how they were both coming together and clashing with each other, but not in a sense of violence or conflict or superiority on either side. Simply that by creating that clashing between the two, they were creating a point in the middle that created vision, created balance, and created stability with.
All right. So, she's hitting the point home really hard, guys. I'm glad I picked this one. So, that's the truth. It is. I mean, and even if, you guys have seen me cover the Alchemist's video, Sarah. Actually, we'll pull that one up next. She talks about high frequency and low frequency counterparts. So essentially, fear is the low frequency counterpart of love. And that in and of itself should take you outside of the dualistic box. So let's keep going here.
Within consciousness, stability within source. Source is not a one-sided frequency. It's not something that will only ever be one thing, as I've constantly mentioned. This is a combination of both of these frequencies. Nothing that is outside of what we know to be God or source exists. Anything outside of that awareness does not exist.
You hear what she said. Anything outside of that awareness does not exist. This is even further case in point that God and Satan are the same person.
So when we truly think about it, what is the darkness? How do we truly process that kind of consciousness? And if we bring that down to a more earthly perspective, we can start to think about some other things that we often judge, such as interference, war, superiority, lower consciousness, ego, mainly being ego. When we really look at all of these topics, how do we really feel around them? What are they really? Because when you look at something from a higher perspective, when you go out of your judgment, to me it's like going further and further away from my physical body. That's the way that I see it visually. And from there, I'm kind of taking a look at the world from the outside. And I process the way that different circumstances are going on. I know that a lot of people judge them to be one way or another. But when I truly...
See how she said, judge them to be one way or another. So, look at So let's take what she just said here. I really like her. She needs to get on this podcast. But let's take what she said here, right? Let's really listen to what she just said. How we see situations as one way or the other, but in reality, so a lot of people saw, because this is also going to be on YouTube, so please forgive me, guys, saw the coof as a horrible thing. And I can't even lie myself, I didn't come to the realization of this theory up until about this year. So I at first thought the coof was a bad thing, but for many other reasons than the common person did. But then I saw that the coof started to awaken people, and it started to cause a mass awakening in people. So that was a good thing that came out of a bad situation.
Feel them, sense them for my essence. They're not evil and they're not good. They simply are. Whether it's ego, whether it's interference, whether it's violence, whatever it is, they're all in one way or another a contribution to our growth. This is a very difficult topic for a lot of people to wrap their mind around, especially when you're very rooted within the judgment of what these two frequencies are.
AKA rooted in duality.
Another way of expressing it, kind of like the explanation I gave about truth. If you look at the infinite amount of perspectives there are around everything that exists, every single one of them is going to look at the same thing in an infinite amount of different ways. And within those, there will be judgments.
So what she just said there too, now this is most certainly a conversation for a whole other episode, but I'm going to touch on it right now just for a second. Yeah, I can't even touch on it because I'm just going to go off on a spew. Let's keep watching this right now. So this will have to be a conversation for another episode.
One of them will say that it's ego. One of them will say that it's evil. One of them will say that it's the light and it's the highest of the high. However you want to call it. But when you step outside and just observe all of that, all of those judgments, all of those belief systems, all of those perceptions, when you really go outside of all of them and simply see them all at the same time in alchemy with each other as a network, you see that there's no difference between the light and the dark. Everything has both because everything is simply a perspective.
Now, mind you, I have to touch on it after that. So, what she was talking about, how things just are, and there's a million different perspectives. There's an infinite amount of perspectives. So, part of the consciousness documentary is consciousness is a very huge problem in physics right now. Because number one, they've decided that the results and the data collected from experiments are skewed based on the person who is observing the experiment. Reality does not exist until it is viewed. Not only with that, we have the particle wave duality. So in essence, what all of this could mean, and this is why this is a very huge issue for not only the institution of science, but the method of science, is all of reality could be subjective. Meaning that there would be no objective reality at all. There would most certainly be a collective of realities that we have here on this planet, and this is why we call it the collective human consciousness. But if reality is not objective at all, then your laws of physics break down, and then the method of science breaks down, and then a lot of other things start to break down too if reality is completely subjective. But I want you to take that into consideration, you guys, because do you see the color blue the same way I do? Most certainly not. So, let's continue.
This ties completely in with the topic of truth. It simply depends on your own truth and your own essence, your own purpose, that's going to decide whether or not something is in alignment with you. And from there, people tend to create a judgment. But really the main message that I'm trying to convey here is that everything is completely neutral. What we don't see to be neutral is the physical vision of it, what we see to be occurring within the world. But on a frequency level, on an energetic level, it's all perfect. And it's all for the benefit of balance.
Exactly. So, even it is all perfect because God's creation is perfect, is it not? It would not be this way if it wasn't perfect. On top of that, everything being neutral and solely existing for the balance and solely existing for its purpose, every encounter, every person, every situation, every instance could spur a great awakening. It's all towards integrity and the integrity of that balance. So I have subscribed to this young lady. She hasn't been on her channel in a while, it looks like, but I will be having a conversation with her. I would love to have her on. So let's look at the Alchemist's video real quick, and then we will kind of wrap up what we're talking about here. So another one I would love to have on the podcast is this one, Miss Sarah. So I'm looking for her higher frequency, lower frequency counterpart. You have chaos and order, higher consciousness, how to jump timelines, okay, might have to do a little bit more digging on that, you guys, but how to block and clear the rise of the divine feminine, the rise of how to receive energy upgrades, who are they? So actually, I'm going to go ahead and link her whole page, you guys, because this is going to be a little bit too long. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, you guys, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to link her YouTube page down at the bottom of the description in this video so you guys can check out her videos herself. She goes into higher frequency, lower frequency counterparts, basically what the last girl was saying in her video. Now here's the thing, you might hear people who are not reverends, who are not gurus, who are not who you would call people of authority in this field, and that's because in the spiritual field and outside of the Judeo-Christian religions, the human being is the authority. And this is not old knowledge or new knowledge, you guys. This is stuff that's been around before Judeo-Christian religions. This is stuff that has been around for thousands upon thousands of years. And I think it's time we come full circle with this theory. So hear me out on this. So we talked about in the beginning on how governments and world establishments make God, religion, spirituality, philosophy, things like that taboo. We don't want it. It cannot be proven physically. We cannot touch it in this material world. So how could it exist? Okay, we talked about the unreasonable classification of plant medicines in the Schedule 1 category. It really sucks that people, even in my age group, still believe the propaganda. It sucks, but what are you going to do? Then on top of that, we talk about the lapse in logic and the lapse in reason in our society. right now. Now here comes the real kicker. So take what I said in the beginning. You make something seem overtly taboo. Look at the whole situation during the COOF. They made people like you and I seem like we were taboo, we were nuts. You don't want to be around those people who do not want to get a stabby jabby. You don't want to be around them. They're a threat to humanity. They should be locked up. They should be killed. They should be denied medical attention. They should be this, and this. I mean, the list fucking goes on. But the number one thing I can say is look at how it's all horrendously backfired. Look at that company coming out and saying they're doing some nanotechnology on the things you take for the COOF that makes it mutate. Okay? Look at how we have the hashtag died suddenly. Look at how now we have the people who got the stabby jabby looking at us, asking us, why didn't we warn them? We tried. You guys didn't want to listen to us, though, because we weren't Fauci or Gates. So, look at how everything is horrendously backfiring. Or is it? Or was this the plan all along? You have to understand what we're dealing with here is not in absolutes. What we are dealing with is a balance and a push towards awakening. It's happened on all levels and all scales. I mean, you've even heard me talk about how we're being mocked into an awakening right now. I mean, fucking Ligma Johnson. I mean, the gas stoves and the gas vehicles and the gas lighting. I mean, we are wholeheartedly being mocked in a very smug way into waking up and realizing what's going on. So essentially, people like Klaus Schwab, people like Jeffrey Epstein, people like Bill Gates, people like whoever is playing Joe Biden, people like these individuals who we want to look at as our sworn enemies, okay, and we want to look at as people we need to fear. You yourself are getting caught up in that fear complex vibration. You understand what I'm saying? Because by looking for an enemy and having to seek and partake in a conflict and a battle, because you feel that once I take this person down, it's all going to be good. No, once this happens, it's all going to be good. Once this gets unveiled, it's all going to be good. Newsflash, guys, it's not all going to be good until we all realize it's going to be good. And that's probably a good way to put it, is I wholeheartedly believe that this government we're dealing with, I share the same opinion as my co-anchor Joe, is a Potemkin village of a government. Okay, I feel that this was really elicited in 2012. And since we're even talking about this, let's look at this just to even kind of give you guys an in-depth look about this. Now, let me give you a little bit of a breakdown of what December 21st, 2012 was. It was the end of an age, right? It was not the end of the world. Let's see. First BLM news article. So let's take a look here. 2014. So in 2012, look at that. And in 2014. Okay, look at how it began. All right, check that out. I'm going to leave that in the description also. So let's check out first Antifa news article. Okay. An intimate history of Antifa. Look, they're even telling you guys right here. Check this out. In 1936, tens of thousands of Zionists, socialists, Irish dockworkers, communists, anarchists, and various outraged residents of London's East End gathered to prevent Oswald Mosley and his British Union of Fascists from marching through their neighborhood. So, because Antifa first came into being, I believe, in 2014, 2015. It's not really giving me dates in this article, but the rise of the violent left. So 2013. Okay. So it's not going over the exact date. Up here we go. Let's go to good old Wikipedia. So they got the anarcho-commie flag. So it grew after 2016. Okay. So now let's look at the inception of the woke movement. Yep, 2014. Yep, so as you guys can see, I think case in point that a lot of the weird lapse in logic, lapse in reason, oxymoronic behavior that started to plague human society started to come into fruition after 2012. If you look at before 2012, you will see none of this. You will see none of this. So, back to the theory. I digress. So we have no enemies and no heroes, meaning that people like Bill Gates, people like Schwab, people like Epstein, all those people, they're not truly enemies. Yes, they were doing bad things. Okay, yes, they did things that were not right. But what did these things lead to? An awakening. This is another example of a silver lining, a good thing happening from bad circumstances. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, well, Steve, what about the children? What about the farmland? What about sovereignty? What about all of this stuff these people are trying to take it away from us? You're only letting them take it from you, is what you're doing. You're letting them do it. You don't let them. I know some of you guys can kind of resonate with this, that if you didn't wear masks in certain places during the COOF lockdowns, you were not thrown to the ground and dragged out of the store. You are not forced to put it on and told you and were made to leave if you did not. I can think of many instances where I've walked in and I said I had a medical exemption and they left me alone. So, you know, they're only making you think they can take that from you. In reality, if you're truly a sovereign being and you practice sovereignty, not only in your life, but in your spiritual practices, you have nothing to worry about. They're not going to take a damn thing from you. Okay, so let's break it down step by step, and then we're going to wrap this up for you guys. So, really, we have post-2012, the beginning of the test run of the simulation. And what I mean by this is humanity is at a pivotal stage in growth. A lot of scientists have referred to it as the great filter. I don't think it really goes that way, but I'm going to use it as a basis for this example. So we are being tested right now by higher beings, whether you want to call them the gods, whether you want to call them interdimensional extraterrestrials, whether you want to call them the progenitors of the human race, whatever you want to call them. We are being tested in our evolution as we speak right here and now. And we're being tested on the premise of, are we ready to move beyond what we are now? Or do we still have work we need to do? I, for one, cannot lie. I failed a few tests. I have. I've let my humanity get the best of me a few times, most certainly. But I don't plan on failing any more tests from here on out. And we are being tested to see if we can release our ego, we can release our judgment. Because in order for us to really spring forth into being an ascended civilization that intermingles with other life forms and things like that, that we need to go through this test run. You've heard me talk about it on the Saturday show with Joe, how on that Star Trek Next Generation first episode, they wanted to go intermingle with other races, and they had to be put through a simulatory test to see if they were ready for such things. And that is what I most certainly believe that we are going under right now. So, we're being tested. We have a perfectly staged awakening. The emperor has no clothes. Okay? We have a Potemkin village of a government right now. So what do you have to fear? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. Because, guys, we've talked about consciousness and occult manifestation. They're trying really hard to have us manifest this war with China and allow this war with China for whatever reason. I have my theories. But what you put into and what you give energy to is ultimately going to become something that manifests in reality. You hear us talk about consciousness creates reality. You hear us talk about how what you put energy into will manifest. So, if you guys are sitting there worrying about the devil, worrying and fearing CBDCs, worrying and fearing digital IDs, worrying and fearing a new world order, you're going to bring it into fruition. That's how this works. So, I encourage you guys, do some research, take a look at what I'm talking about. Okay? Don't just look at me like I'm some lunatic who is a Satanist and believes evil is good and things like that. No. I understand the importance of both sides of the balance. That is the difference. I do not get caught up in hierarchical and prophetic consciousness states. I am a sovereign person. I even have sovereignty I even use discernment in my own beliefs. I can't tell you how many times I've been back to the drawing board over and over again because I'm shown something that makes me negate one of my core beliefs. You know what I mean? And that's what universe/God is essentially pushing us towards, is integrity, being better. You're always forgiven if you're trying to be better. And just remember that, you guys. So, too long, don't read or don't watch. We're in a perfectly staged awakening. The test run for it happened in 2012. There are no enemies. There are no heroes. There's merely teachers and actors playing a part in what we have right now, this great awakening here on planet Earth. Or is it Earthship Earth? Who knows? But I'm going to leave you guys now. This will be included in my consciousness documentary that I am working on because I think it is a very important part of everything. You know, remember, next time somebody comes into your life that you think is evil or you think is bad, ask yourself, what is this person trying to teach me? What is this person trying to show me? Is it something I need to work on within myself? Is it something that I do not want to manifest in my life? Is it something that, you know, I need to learn in order to better my growth? And that's the thing. You know, I look at you know, people like Klaus Schwab, and I go, he is telling me about the world I do not want. So I am going to focus my energy and my consciousness into the world that I do want. A one where we're all hanging out together, enjoying our multi-dimensional lives during this great awakening. That's the world I would love. Okay? So remember, guys, do not even take what I say at face value. Research. I'm going to put the links down at the bottom for you of everything we looked at today. okay? And really take this theory into consideration, because a lot of you might think it's naive to think this way. A lot of you might think, I dropped something, might think that I'm really off base and that evil is something that we really need to worry about. I can't blame you for feeling that way. All I can do is encourage you to, one, look at what I'm showing you, do your own research. If you're truly interested in this theory, do not just listen to me. Listen to everybody else who talks about it also. Okay? Use discernment even with your own beliefs. Okay? You will be surprised. You might go back to that drawing board a couple times. You might have to, because you might be encountered with something that negates a core belief of yours. And that doesn't make you any less of a Christian. That doesn't make you any less of a Hebrew or anything like that, if that's the case. Okay? Mind you that there are broader spectrum versions of Christianity and Judaism as well. So you do not have to be restricted to the New Testament or the Talmud or something like that. I mean, the Kabbalah is a book on Hebrew mysticism that talks about certain ceremonial magic practices that a lot of Kabbalists do. I mean, even Christianity has mysticism at its roots, you guys. I mean, it's something I encourage you all to do. Just use discernment even with your own beliefs. And on top of that, you guys truly have nothing to fear. Really. I think we've ended up on a very good timeline. And my philosophy has always been, is if you're doing right by yourself and you're doing right by others, you have absolutely nothing to fear. Absolutely nothing. And take that and manifest your conscious energy towards that life you want to see, that reality you want to see, instead of fearing about the reality you don't want to see. This is how it works, you guys. So on that note, my famous catchphrase, until next time, you guys, I will see you for the Saturday show, BG Top show. We might do half pre-recorded, half live. I don't know yet. I got to get on the horn with Joe, and I got to talk with him. We got to work some things out. We have a very good topic we want to talk about on Saturday, but I've noticed with the live stream, sometimes we get off base and we kind of go on tangents. So I really would like to keep it strictly to certain topics from here on out. What we might do is we might do a live stream 2 out of the 4 Saturday shows we do a month. So again, until next time, my friends, I hope you guys enjoyed this and y'all have a great day.